Great. Thank you so much, Emily. And yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Really quick, I definitely want to shout out Lance once again on just an impeccable story, a journey, not without its challenges, but that certainly made me think about the quote of life happens for you and not to you. And, in Lance's perspective, as tough as those events were, it certainly allowed him to speak life and truth into others. So yeah, definitely thank you for that, Lance. So yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So closing out today's keynote, so many great discussions, facilitation that has happened this afternoon, and certainly happy and fortunate to be a part of this as well. And so this is a topic near and dear to my heart. When we talk, when we discuss, creating a community, right? Cultivating your network, and truly realizing and understanding that your peers, your friends, your colleagues, your coworkers are certainly individuals that should be leveraged as a resource, as an ambassador for whatever it is that you're trying to do. And then, keeping in mind from the standpoint, this, harkens back to a conversation I had with a mentor of mine that, we should allow people to be blessings to us, right? There's so many individuals that are probably in your circle and network now that have so much knowledge to impart, and, but by engaging and expanding your network, not only are we able to share our own offerings and expertise, but we're also allowing others to impart their knowledge on us as well. So that's something to certainly keep in mind when we talk about building your network, and realizing that you truly can't get ahead in life all on your own. So just want to start things off with, there's some connotations, that come with, the idea and the premise of networking, right? And so some of them you can see here. The main one that we probably hear a lot is networking is for extroverts. And that's really not necessarily the case. And, something to, keep in mind when it comes to networking and cultivating your community, quality over quantity. And so, if you self-identify as an extrovert, or if you self-identify as an introvert, that's neither here nor there. The big takeaway is when we are engaging in, discussions and engaging in networking events and going out and meeting individuals, it shouldn't be a numbers game. It should really be, quality over quantity. Quick story about myself and just in my career, how networking and being proactive with just engaging in folks from all walks of life. So here I am freshly out of university, go Rutgers University. I'm a New Jersey native. And so started working for a advertising agency in Philadelphia. This is around the economic downturn, in 2008, 2009. And so ended up getting laid off from that. And so, that put me down the path of public servancy. And here's how that, essentially happened. So living in New Jersey at this time, I get wind of a government career fair that's in Maryland. And this is June of 2009. I think the career fair is probably 9 a.m. in the morning. So, I leave, New Jersey super early, head down to Maryland in hopes of, meeting some folks, understanding how the government works, just trying to find a way to get in as a young, individual fresh out of university. So mind you, 25-year-old, young Black man, not a whole bunch of career experience. I meet a individual there who is, complete opposite ends of the spectrum, a senior, older Caucasian gentleman, but we hit it off, just like amazingly, to the point where we actually stayed in communication throughout that whole summertime and throughout my, process of, figuring out how to get into the government and understanding how all those things work. And I say that because, that particular individual, spoke up for me in rooms that I was not able to be in, at that time when it came through, the application process. And, 6 months later, that relationship that was cultivated organically, ended up essentially the start of a 13-year federal career. So really important to highlight there that keeping an open mind, keeping an open perspective, building those quality relationships. You'd certainly never know where it may take you. A couple other items here is you have to attend networking events to network. Part of that may be true, but we network in, our everyday lives are, right now, whether it is going to the grocery store, whether it is going out to an entertainment event or a sporting event. Obviously, in the virtual environment, that certainly may take a little bit more intentionality behind it, but there's opportunities all amongst us, at any given moment to, quote unquote network or quote unquote engage with, individuals from all, lifestyles and, in all areas in the particular life. And that's important because, you've got to remember the individuals that we either want to meet or want to speak with. Everyone needs to eat, right? So when you're going out to your local grocery stores or local restaurants, those individuals that you might be seeing on LinkedIn or throughout your organization, they're going to be out in the public. So, going to networking events, certainly there's value there. But don't limit yourself in terms of where you're able to engage and speak with individuals and where you yourself can be someone of value as well. The other notion here that networking is all about self-promotion, that's another one to take a closer look at here. Really networking and just any quality relationship building, the first thing that, I, attempt to do is where can I help that individual? What is a particular experience that I've gone through, knowledge that I may have acquired? How can I impart that on the individual with, nothing expected in return? How can I be a blessing to others? That's how I tend to look at that. And when you frame it that way, that helps with taking some of that pressure off, when you're going out and you are at these events where, you are looking to engage and build a community of people. It's really not all about self-promotion. It's about how can I help individuals? Where can I provide value? We've all gone through experiences. I know I certainly have, and I don't want those experiences to go in vain. So if there's, an individual that, might be 5 or 10 years, behind where I was at, I feel like there's a duty for me to actually spread some of that knowledge and some of that intellectual wealth to them as well. Networking is only about getting a job. That's another notion to demystify here. So you've probably heard the phrase, the best time to look for a job is when you don't need a job. I look at networking as, hey, as you are organically building a community of individuals, peers of individuals, without the pressure of you needing a job, that's really where you can form those, long sustaining quality relationships that, if it happens to be where there's opportunities that, certainly pop up from those relationships being cultivated, great. But, that for most individuals, that is not the intention of, them going in and wanting to build their network. It's not necessarily to look for a new position or a new job. So moving on to the next slide here. So why you should build a community. So, nowadays, especially in the online space, we're hearing so much about master classes. We're hearing so much about online communities. There's so many different working groups and communities of practice. And those have certainly been very beneficial for me and for others that I've seen as well. And so I think the biggest one is, that support and engagement. Believe it or not, everyone that's here, on the NextGen Summit, you all have been having conversations in the chat messages. You all have probably been sharing, emails and knowledge and things of that nature. You all are in the midst of continuing to build your community now. And harken back to what Lance had mentioned in his keynote. That community is certainly necessary when you hit some of those hardships, whether it be personal and or professional, right? There's a large emotional support aspect that comes into, having that community, having those individuals for you to lean on, that, going the lone wolf approach or, the mindset that no one understands me or no one cares. Once again, you're not allowing others to be a blessing to you, if you have that particular mindset. Your community, building that certainly, I believe, invokes inspiration and motivation, right? And so, there's something to be said with hearing different perspectives, hearing different perspectives from different people. Certainly, at least help.
Brian might have frozen on us. So I am just going to take this chance while we see if Brian can reconnect here for a second to just kind of build on what Brian is saying right now. And that is that NextGen is and hopefully can be for you all this community. And what we are really trying to do here at Govloop and NextGen is bring folks together in a space that is safe, that is useful and compelling, so that you can share your insights, you can share your best practices, because that's the beauty of government, is that we can all really learn and grow from each other.
Maybe you should reconsider.
He's back.
Am I still here?
Brian,
I apologize. How long did I drop?
You were gone for about a minute or so. You kind of cut out a little bit when you were talking about some of the personal branding pieces.
Oh my goodness. I so apologize for that. Okay, so yeah.
I think Brian is just going to have some connectivity issues here for the rest of the time. So Brian, what I'm going to have you do is, if you can maybe turn off your camera, maybe we can still hear you, but it won't be taking as much bandwidth. So why don't you try that for a second? Brian, can you hear me?
Yes, I apologize. Can you hear me?
Yes, go for it.
Okay, great. Apologies, everyone. So just jumping back to the the purpose of building the community. Yes, the personal branding aspect, visibility, recognition, and then of course career advancement, right? So let's be honest. A lot of us, we have additional aspirations, with our careers and or personal endeavors. And so when you build that community, you're engaging, like-minded individuals, similar skill sets and experiences, but then also some from diverse skill sets and experiences, that certainly, can aid you in, hey, maybe these are areas in your career or your learning that you should consider, or hey, maybe these are areas that you may want to avoid just based off of my own lessons learned. So there's a lot of benefits with building the community. And so when you're thinking about, networking and going out there and engaging and enhancing your peer circle, these are certainly areas that you want to keep in mind. Okay, so overcoming networking challenges. And so I liked this content so much that I repeated lack of confidence in limited time twice, just to make sure I drove the message home. So, and actually, Emily, I'm gonna try to turn my camera on here, see if that helps, because I definitely want to. If I drop off again, I'll turn it off for good. All right, so I think the biggest one here is fear of rejection. That is just a basic human emotion. I still deal with that now. I'm sure there's a few of you that have some of those same challenges, and so fear and certainly overthinking things can certainly prevent us from taking action and putting ourselves out there. And when we do that, we certainly, miss out on potential opportunities, of either growth or, once again, being able to impart knowledge and, experiences, onto others. So, one thing that I think about, to overcome the fear of rejection is, once again, focus on building relationships, organic relationships, understanding that, hey, I am, coming to this individual with not an immediate ask, right? I think that removes some of the, fear that may be associated with networking, going out to some of these other events, things of that nature. The other aspect to keep in mind is, not everyone is for everyone, and that's perfectly okay. And it also just may not be the particular time, moment in that season. There are certainly individuals that I have reconnected with now that, for whatever reason, there was a period in time where there wasn't as much communication, but it wasn't from a burn the bridge standpoint. It was probably just from the standpoint of either they had a lot going on professionally or vice versa. They had a lot going on, personally or vice versa. And so, that's something that we don't want to, frame that as a personal rejection if we reach out to someone and they either don't respond to our LinkedIn request, the first time, or they don't respond to the first email request. It just may not be that particular moment or that particular season. And so, but that doesn't say anything about your character. So put yourself out there, right? Because another phrase, closed mouths don't get fed. And there's also the law of averages from the standpoint. So, just understand that, this is a journey. Networking and growing and cultivating relationships is not a one-time event. And so, that'll hopefully reframe some of the fear factor associated, with networking and cultivating your community. The other one here, lack of confidence. So I like to do a lot of visualization. I like to think of positive intention, positive outcomes. Now, that doesn't mean that it'll always come to fruition, but that helps me when I, extend an olive branch or I extend my hand to individuals, especially if there's no common connections, right? So if there's, a common circle of individuals, that may be more supportive in terms of, having an in, so to speak, of engaging with that person. But I also think it's not that serious, right? Once again, I look at networking from the standpoint of where can I provide value, not necessarily that I need a job now or, I need someone to do something for me now. Because when you have that mindset, you add that pressure to yourself. And so you remove some of that organic element when it comes to networking. So, I just take it as, I'm going to, reach out to folks, engage in cool conversations, share my experiences, and, kind of see where it goes from there. The other challenge is, what we think probably self-imposed is, well, I don't necessarily have time for networking, right? It just seems like it takes a lot of resources. I just can't fit it into my calendar and my schedule. So while some of that may be true, of course, you can't physically go to every event possible. Start with micro networking, right? Maybe there's one or two people that you send an email out to or that you reach out to LinkedIn. Maybe it's just 10 minutes a day, right? 10 minutes a day compounded over 365 days a year. I am not a math major, but I'm sure you can work that out on your end. And then you can really see where, planting those seeds along the way, when you come back a year from now, how you can really cultivate something, awesome and cool for yourself. And then schedule time in advance. If something is important or a priority for you, find a way to get it on your calendar. If you're like me, there was a point in time where I didn't want to schedule activities or I didn't want to schedule check-ins with friends and peers because it almost made me feel like they weren't a priority. You're right, because the fact that I have to add you to my calendar, I feel some kind of way about our relationship. That actually held me back, right? Those that way of thinking held me back, because as I told myself I was not going to schedule something, it ended up not getting done anyway, right? So, drop some of the pride, associated with that, and, get some stuff on your calendar where, you sync up with individuals already in your network, or you might say, hey, next Wednesday, I am going to spend 20 minutes doing some outreach. And once again, you'll be surprised at how that compound effect kicks in there. And then the last one here, being viewed as inauthentic, which I touched on a little bit earlier. As much as possible, you want to go in networking with no strings attached. Either no strings attached, or going in from the standpoint of, hey, how can I help this person individually before I go in for a potential ask or favor? That will, put the other person's, guard down a little bit, right? In terms of, well, Brian is only reaching out to me because of X, Y, Z, versus, hey, the first thing that Brian said when he reached out to me is, hey, I know such and such, or I'm experiencing such and such. Let me know how I can help you, or let me know what information I can share. That will certainly open up that relationship, as you build it long term. And, from the standpoint of, this is an authentic relationship. This is something where this person truly believes they have something of value. They truly believe in what I am doing or what I am about. And that will organically, build that community around you. And then clarify your intentions up front. It could be, hey, I saw you at the NextGen Summit. You mentioned XYZ. I want to know more about that. Can we schedule some time to talk? It could be just very, very simple, as something like that. Okay, so getting ready to grow. So you all have obviously taken this first step. You've taken other steps, along with this. So stay curious, right? Ask those good questions. Seek out diverse perspectives, folks that look different from you, folks that come from different backgrounds, work in different organizations within different agencies. Those, will all, keep that growth mindset, which is so important when you're building a community, and you're building, a team of advocates for yourself, once again, either personally or professionally. Experiment and take calculated risks, right? So not all risks are the same. So I definitely want to, make that notion. I have certainly taken calculated risks in my career where, I put some of that fear aside, and not all of them have turned out, but I'm alive here. I still have all my extremities. And so if I don't lose any of those, then, everything else is just a learning experience. So that's something certainly to keep in mind. And share successes and achievements with your network. I heard a phrase, that if it's true, it's not bragging, right? If you did something great within your agency and your organization, there's, no reason why that should be kept, to yourself. Once again, how can you be a blessing to others? Is there someone that is, in the midst of going through that same, experience where, had you not expressed what you had went through, you may not have been able to help them or provide support within that community. So, don't hide your successes and your achievements. I'm sure you've all, gone through some pain points with them. So you don't want it to be for naught. There's a lot of people out there who care about what you're doing and can leverage from that. So just very quickly here, what can you do now? When you all leave from this closing keynote, when you go back to your organizations and your offices, here are some very actionable steps. First one, I would certainly say reach out to all the NextGen session speakers, right? I think all their LinkedIn posts are on their slides. A lot of great conversations here. That's the first step. Identify connections you haven't interacted with in your current network. Maybe there's folks you haven't touched base with in, a month or two. Just start engaging in dialogue. Hey, how you doing? What have you been working on lately? Make it a point to, identify 5 new people you want to meet over the course of 3 to 6 months. Once again, being intentional, scheduling time to grow your network, joining these organizations. Nowadays, there's so many virtual and hybrid opportunities to gauge in others that, it's really no brainer to be able to do that. And then once again, remember, offer help to others. I think offering help to others is a key step in building your community, because they see that you're coming with good intentions, and that travels, right? That individual then starts spreading word to others that you may have not necessarily known about, and so your reputation precedes you, and that can certainly be a benefit. And then, of course, professional organizations, associations, communities of practice. Once again, so many individuals out there that have the same goals and intentions as you, that you certainly want to leverage those opportunities as well. So a lot of actionable steps here, a lot of great discussions during this whole NextGen Summit. And so I certainly believe you found this of value. So Emily, I will pass it back to you. Here's my email, my LinkedIn, for any individual that wants to connect. And thank you so much, Emily. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in.
Yes. And maybe we should make it a competition. How many new LinkedIn connections can you get off of this session? The more, the better, right? We're all trying to be part of this community. But thank you so much, Brian. I have time for one quick question for you. And
Sure.
This one really centers around the virtual environment or the hybrid environment that so many of us are in. Any kind of quick tip on ways to make a virtual connection feel more personal?
Yeah, definitely. So a couple of things. The first thing that pops in my mind is obviously turning your camera on. In large group meetings, I understand that, not everyone may have, want to have their camera on. But if you're having like a virtual chat or like a virtual introduction with someone that's one-on-one, I think both of you should have your cameras on. I think it would be awkward if one has their camera on and the other doesn't. So that would definitely be a first step. And then in a virtual environment, I'm a big proponent of like studying my network. So if you see that individual has a particular role, or you see them post about certain things, I'll actually go online and find like articles or journals and references, and I'll send them links and resources, because that lets them know that they are top of mind with you, and that makes them feel some kind of way, to everyone's benefit.
I love that. I love that. Learning a little bit more about someone before you maybe ask them for something is always cool. Well, thank you so much, Brian. We are giving you some virtual round of applause, of course.
Appreciate
it. Can't believe it. I'm going to be saying this, but it is now time for our final poll of NextGen 2023. But before we do that poll, I have a few takeaways for all of you. And I do want to take this opportunity to say that it's been an absolute pleasure to share this time with all of you. So here are the 5 things I'm going to leave you with. First, you are exactly where you need to be at this moment. So remember to enjoy the space between where you are and where you are going, because the journey is ever so important. Secondly, the government needs you, and it's people like you who will shape and transform our government for the better. So we really appreciate and value the work that you do. Third, trust yourself, because you know more than you think you do, and your voice matters. So make sure you're not just having a seat at the table, but a voice at the table as well. And remember that you are powerful and strong and capable, and don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise. And last, but certainly not least, you've got this. You've survived shutdowns or future shutdowns, political uncertainties, a pandemic, and so much more. And you're stronger and smarter for it. So here's to making the best of the remainder of 2023. And now on to the last poll. And this one is pretty simple. We want to know, will you be back for May's version of NextGen? We're coming back in May. I know where I will be. While you are answering that